to I've Seen Things. I'm Amy.
And I'm
this is Taja.
Hi, I'm back.
You're like that spider that said hello to me.
I survived the winter.
We all did.
Somehow.
So after having Christy Lee on, it's over to Taja for her episode of awesome information.
Well, I thought that today we might have a chat about DG, the Australian Dangerous Goods Code, and specifically how it interacts with our transport on the roads in regards to the most recent incident that happened in sort of mid-north Queensland with the accident on the Bruce Hwy, where an ammonium nitrate carrying truck had a accident with a ute and left an explosion that has basically left the Bruce Hwy as a crater. So I thought we might have a chat about the cartage, and if you have any questions or anything like that, maybe we can have a bit more of an in-depth look at the Australian Dangerous Goods Code in a later episode. But in this case, I believe that this accident has happened a year almost. I think there's a week's difference between one that happened in Roma, I believe it was. So, and it was carrying pretty much the same goods, and it was a very similar situation where there's been an incident with something that's happened on the road, and it's caused the truck to veer, and that has then caused the reaction that has created the explosion. And it's a very intense explosion. It is essentially a bomb going off.
Wow.
So our dangerous goods drivers have to have a specialised licence, they have to go through specialised classes, and they have to renew it pretty much every year. They have to go through those classes so that they can have a good understanding of what the latest regulations are, and they have to have a good understanding of how they're supposed to be maintaining equipment, how things are supposed to be carded. And there's even tiers to those licenses. So you can't just go get an Australian Dangerous Goods license and cart radioactivity. You have to do a special course for radioactive equipment, and you have to have specialised transport equipment to cart stuff like that. So, and it is amazing what falls into dangerous goods and how it gets classified that way. So there's a lot of things that fall into dangerous goods on land that don't fall into dangerous goods on sea, and there's things on sea that don't fall into dangerous goods on land. And again, same sort of thing with air travel, because they're all different environments that will create different reactions. So there is a dangerous goods class called marine pollutant, and that is only classed as a dangerous good if traveling via sea. But it looks like a dead fish on the packet, on the diamond, and it's amazing how many people go, it's dangerous goods, there's a diamond. Yes, but if it's on a truck, it's not dangerous goods. If it's on a plane, it's not dangerous goods, but as soon as it hits a ship, it's dangerous goods.
Yes.
So they have to be aware that it's there, because if there's an incident with the ship and that is what leaks, they have to know that they're going to have to try and contain and clean up as much as possible, because it will kill the marine life. Things like batteries often are not allowed to travel via air, or they have to be specially marked and packaged to be allowed onto an aeroplane, because an explosion of a lithium battery or a lithium battery fire on an aeroplane is obviously going to be far more devastating than pulling a truck over on the side of the road and letting it burn out.
Yeah. We've all seen the safety stuff going through customs.
Yes.
Or having even your battery packs. Got to keep them on your backpack in the plane with you.
Yeah, because basically they're just going to throw it out a window. That's how that's going to go at the end of the day.
And maybe you.
It depends on what you're doing. I recently had to send something that it was aerosol. It was just a little case of, I think, 12 or so cans of galvanized zinc paint, and it had a 2-factor dangerous goods class, because it was an aerosol, which means that it's under the pressure, and it was a flammable paint.
Yeah. So
it's technically under flammable, but then there's the subclass of the fact that it's an aerosol. So because it was only a parcel, we were sending it via Australia Post Star Track. There was a bit of a confusion on the website as to how it was supposed to go, which service it was supposed to go on. So it was actually rejected on the first go because they were going to put it onto an air freight. And those sort of things don't normally get sent on air freight. So it was rejected and they're like, you didn't do that properly. So we went back and we put it on a different service and it just went on a truck and it was fine. And they told me that my labels were too small. And I told them, those were the factory labels that you sent it to me with. You sent it, I got it from you. Okay, I'll make them bigger. I can do that. I have a printer. So I printed some new ones and it was fine. It got sent. It arrived at its destination as it should, and it arrived completely legally. Everything was done properly. 8 days ago. So the fatal crash... Pop-ups, so many pop-ups.
She's just trying to get to the article. That's all she wants.
Yeah, okay. So the accident happened outside of Buroran, which is 400 kilometres north of Brisbane, and it was an ammonium nitrate spill. It was a 2.5 kilometre exclusion zone around the accident to make sure that they could clean everything up properly and that nobody else would get contaminated or injured. It did leave one driver dead and another in hospital at the time of the incident. And I'll try and whack some photos up here so that you can see, because it did leave a bit of a fireball.
Yeah, it's pretty big.
It was quite bad. I'll try and put some photos in of the crater it left behind, and there was quite a bit of devastation to the bushland, obviously, around it with that explosion. The ute driver, I believe, was the one that passed away in the incident. The B-double driver was pulled from the truck with abdominal, leg, pelvic, head and arm injuries and was airlifted by rescue helicopter to Bundaberg Hospital. Now, the accident happened quite early on in the morning. I believe it was... I was talking to another colleague at a different company. We were trying to see who knew what about it.
Yeah.
Her partner had actually travelled that route, so she'd gotten a phone call from him at about 3-4 o'clock in the morning to let her know that he wasn't involved in the incident.
Yeah.
A lot of truckies will do that if they're going through that area. So I believe that it was quite early on at the moment in the morning. But it's... I think they're saying that it's 2 or 3 week repair time, which I know everybody that travels that road is laughing at. I am too.
It takes 1,000 years
to do anything on the Bruce Highway. It's
pothole.
Stupid.
Yeah.
It was a Friday morning, so it couldn't have been a worse day to happen, but you know. And emergency services vehicles remained on site, battling fires involved in both vehicles and the surrounds for hours afterwards, because it would have reignited itself. It's that sort of chemical.
Gosh.
The truck spilled ammonium nitrate, which is a chemical used in artificial fertilizers. There was aerial footage taken showing the rear trailer carrying the larger quantity of chemicals leaking onto the ground. Shortly after the footage was taken, the chemical trailer exploded. So the emergency services vehicles were on site trying to clean up before the explosion, but as they were noticing it, it probably would have been like, we need to pull back, there's something happening here. And then it went... The explosion damaged part of the highway, and an emergency alert was issued at the time by Queensland Police, telling residents within the exclusion zone, which included Daisydale Road and Turkey Beach Road, to evacuate due to the fire and chemical reaction. The residents were advised to leave immediately. The Queensland Fire and Rescue Services said that it would be a prolonged incident as the crews had to attack the blaze and clean up the chemical, and motorists were warned it would be quite some time before highway operations resumed due to the damage. Significant debris across the highway for approximately 50 metres onto the other side of the highway, and the highway between Barorum and Tannum Sands was closed to all traffic for an extended period of time. So it was quite a significant incident, and I believe, although I'm not quite sure, I'm just going to see if I can find that. It was 12 hours later and emergency services were still containing spot fires along the highway.
Wow.
So it was quite serious. Only a few hours ago, there was an update posted about the... Oh, there's a new site. There's a new photo.
Wow, it is quite the crater. It almost should be a meteor.
It kind of looks a bit like
a little
that,
bit
doesn't
like,
it?
yeah. A separate disaster's happened beyond an actual disaster. Yeah.
The locals are quite concerned about how it will impact them where it's trucked. So the truck was carrying 42 tons of ammonium nitrate and it collided with a ute. This article is 8 days after the incident.
And it's the environment to consider as well.
Yes. I think sort of it's almost lucky in this case is that because it's burnt out and Australia is a country that has a lot of bushfires, the prolonged impact on that sort of stuff isn't going to be the same as like an oil spill in the ocean. Mm-hmm. It would have burnt itself out of the environment a little bit faster. It's the air pollution and that would have been a bit of a problem for a little while though. It's a 5 meter deep crate. It's a 5 meter deep crate. It's a 5 meter deep crater. Okay.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah, and when it exploded, the shockwaves were felt for kilometres. So the gentleman that was interviewed in this lives 2.5 kilometres out, and they were forced to evacuate after a 2.5 kilometre exclusion zone was put in place. And when they finally returned home, they were met with twisted and buckled doors, smashed windows, cracked ceilings, walls, and rubble. The full extent of damage to the nearby properties is unclear. Insurance assessments are currently underway. So that's how far the impact is. Like there's people's homes that are 2.5 kilometres away from this that have damage to their property from the explosion.
Wow.
So it's, a lot of people are saying that, there's the usual dangerous goods shouldn't be transported by road, but there's certain things that can't be transported by rail, air or sea. Yeah. It's just not viable. I don't know if a lot of people know this in a side to that. Beer can't be transported by rail.
I did not know that. Listeners, did you know that?
Specifically tinnies, the cans of beer.
Sure. Yeah.
They can't be transported by rail. You'll never get a good tinny if it goes by rail.
Makes sense.
Does it? Do you know why?
Like the unevenness of the rail?
No.
Oh.
It's, you know how when you're going through rail, it does the whole... It creates a vibration in the carriage, and tinnies will actually spin in on themselves and...
Oh, right.
So they either lose their carbonation or they all explode. Because they're being shaken the entire time.
Yeah.
Whereas for some reason, I'm guessing the reason is shock absorbers on trucks.
Okay.
Especially now that we have like the airbags over the springs and that. Yeah. It's a much smoother ride.
Right.
And so they're not being constantly vibrated the way that they are on a train carriage.
Huh, there you have it.
So there is a reason for the way things are done.
Yes. People aren't just deciding with no data or reasoning behind their decisions.
Yeah. So ammonium nitrate is carted on rail as well, but I don't think that we have enough trains running to do the sort of amounts that are needed. Yeah. 42 tons on a rail carriage, 42 tons on a truck. There's going to be all sorts of reasons why it was chosen. There's one particular gentleman who is here and he's like, I just don't think that this should be running up and down the Bruce Highway, especially with the amount of truck accidents. Either get it off the road or fix the roads. I think most people's argument is better being swung in the direction of fix the roads, because the Bruce Highway has been neglected for decades. Decades. Like I can remember people talking about it when I was a kid and how bad it was. Yeah. Like I'm mid-30s now. Yeah. And I can remember when I was 5 people complaining about the Bruce Highway. So it's not just a single government problem. It is every government that has ever been in Queensland has neglected the Bruce Highway, and it is appalling that they have. Yeah. It needs a huge upgrade. It needs to be resurfaced. It's just the way it's been left as this tiny little country highway, but it is the main arterial to northern Queensland, and there is so much happening up there.
Yep.
So we've got all the mining, we've got production plants, we've got whole new port scenes going up. We've got going up. We've got so much going on, so much new industrial endeavours going on in northern Queensland that the Bruce Highway is a major arterial now.
Yeah.
Not just for holiday makers.
No.
But for everybody. And there's still nothing being done to upgrade it to carry what is needed to carry. How many accidents? Like, I think I hear multiple accidents a week.
Yeah.
And normally they're fatal. And half the time it's because it's a shit 4-way intersection.
Yes.
That someone couldn't make it through before someone else came through.
Yep.
So it's just, yeah.
It's on the news. I mean, I don't take much notice of much news anymore, but when I do catch little bits, the Bruce Highway is always on the news. Always, like,
constantly.
Always. Yeah.
So the accident that they're talking about here is saying that it's not the first time there's been an ammonium nitrate explosion. A truck carrying 52 tons of fertiliser chemical crashed at Jalala Creek in southwest Queensland, triggering 2 blasts that were described as Australia's largest ever peacetime explosions. Geoscience Australia recorded the second explosion as a 2.1 on the Richter scale, which is the equivalent of 15 tons of TNT.
Whoa.
It took out the entire bridge at Mitchell Highway near Charleville. Like, the bridge was gone.
Jeez, yeah. Holy moly.
Gone.
Yeah. It's basically just looks like ground with rubble on it. There's no remnants of a bridge there.
No. And obviously you can see the trees are quite...
Yeah.
The Mount Isa police officer in charge that headed the Charleville police station at the time woke to the earthquake that was caused by the explosion.
Oh my gosh.
So 8 people were injured, including the truck driver who suffered severe burns, but miraculously nobody died. Right next to the creek was a solid concrete railway bridge, and the bridge had to be picked up and moved and put back down because it had shunted it sideways. Okay. So, you know, it's there's the bit more fire truck among the wreckage caused by the chemical explosion at Charleville. All the trees were stripped to base level bark, and the road was so damaged that freight trucks had to take a 700-kilometre detour to deliver food and goods to Charleville. A major transportation route from South Australia with long-standing economic effects. And it's the same sort of thing with the Bruce Highway. It is a major route, and it will have long-standing economical effects because people are currently having to go way inland. They're going out through Gin to come back down and around because they can't pass through there. It's not light vehicles like your family car are allowed to move through there at the moment, but the heavy vehicles are not because it's just going to make the damage worse before they fix it.
Jeez. Yeah, and it's not going to be a quick fix.
Yes. Now, here's the thing that I get. The Department of Natural Resources and Mining investigated the incident, and they published a report in 2017 with recommendations to improve the safety of transportation of ammonium nitrate. Now, they're saying that ammonium nitrate is a common industrial chemical used for fertilizer and is a good source of nitrogen for the plants. So it's not going to cause too much environmental impact because it is something that, if it does settle into the ground, isn't actually going to kill anything off. Could actually make them grow back better. You know, when you grow your tomatoes, you need to add that extra nitrate to the ground. That's what,
2 thumbs up,
what you get.
Natasha. 2 thumbs up.
Normally, I just do it by planting the peas back into the ground and let them compost out. But, you know, I could just go blow up half the street instead.
Well, you could.
So, DG is... I'm trying to figure out the best way to phrase this.
Okay.
DG is very heavily regulated.
Yeah.
If you drive around with DG placards, there's certain areas you're allowed to go, there's certain areas you're not allowed to go. There's certain like routes that you can't take. So if you have DG on board your truck, you're not allowed to take the Clem 7 tunnel in Brisbane.
I wonder why.
I wonder why. It doesn't matter what sort of DG, you're not allowed to take it. And it's one of those sort of, be careful things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, ammonium nitrate is a salt of ammonia and nitric acid. It's used commonly in mining explosives and fertilizers, which is why it is one of the most transported items, because it has such versatile uses.
Yeah.
So it would be going out to Charleville for mining and agricultural purposes.
Yeah.
And it would have been the same with the Gladstone headed stuff, because Gladstone is one of our ports that deals primarily with mining and agriculture.
So that's why so much of it was on that truck.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, we just need like a couple of litres.
No.
Yeah, we need tons.
And the thing is that when you're ordering ammonium nitrate in these levels, or, tons, and it's going somewhere like that, it is likely going to a production plant to be turned into something.
Yeah.
Whether that is a chemical fertilizer or a explosive. Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter. It's currently in its rawest form, which is generally stable.
Yeah. Until
something else is added into the equation.
Yes.
It's like you have trucks that are carrying... This was my favourite thing when I worked in DG out west, is that there's a lot of gun clubs out west, right? Because they're farmers, so they have to know how to handle their guns in case they get animals onto the property that shouldn't be there. There is a huge feral pig problem in southwest Queensland. And they will absolutely tear up farms.
Yeah.
It's really bad, and they will gore the farmers. It's a big problem. They're very aggressive.
Yes.
They are not a domesticated pig run wild. They are their own breed. We just call them feral pigs because that's the closest thing we've got to them.
Yeah.
But they are a wild animal that do not like people. Yeah. And they will absolutely gore them.
Just absolute carnage wherever they go.
Just carnage.
Yeah.
It's a relatively explosive product.
Yeah. So
it has to be handled with care, but everything that you carry in regards to my story to the Western stuff that we were moving, we did the bullets, the shotgun shells. The amount of care that we had to put into those, despite the fact that they are one of the most stablest versions of explosives. You have to heat the fire to a specific temperature for it to go off in a fire. Yeah. A standard house fire or car fire is not going to set off a bullet. That's just Hollywood myth. Yeah.
Especially movies.
But we had to act as if it was true. And so the truck had to have special placarding and that, and we wouldn't be moving pallet loads of the stuff. It'd be a couple of boxes, but the whole truck had to be placarded for a couple of boxes because it's gunpowder. Yeah. So you had to be, like, it's technically an explosive, so you mark it as an explosive. And then you have the manifest and the DG paperwork and the SDS that travels in a special pouch in the driver's door. You had to have it attached to the manifest that went into the trailer. You had to have all of this stuff. The pallet itself has to be marked up. The box has to be marked up. Yeah. The front and the back of the truck have to be marked up. You have to have the UN on the back with the special, not just the diamond, but the full placard that has what is on board, what its technical name is, who it is that is in charge of emergency contact details and all that sort of stuff. So if something happens to that truck, if driver runs off the road, or there's a rollover, or randomly the back trailer catches fire. Yeah. If emergency services come out and have to attend to that vehicle, essentially the driver can just throw the DG paperwork at them and go, that's what's on board, this is where it is on the trailer. Yeah. Because generally you have to have a little, like a diagram of the truck, and you've got to mark in the DG. So if there's only one pallet of DG on the whole thing and it's carrying 2 cartons of bullets, it's got to be marked clearly.
So either way, whoever's, if you are needed or emergency services are needed or anyone that wants to know what's on that truck you're going to know.
Yes. Anyone that needs to know.
1,000%.
It's not so much anyone that wants to know, because if you're driving through the city and you see a truck, or you're just driving down the highway and you see a truck that has the bumblebee, which is generally the most broad version of a DG classification, which is the miscellaneous, or bumblebee, because it's marked in the yellow and black and it looks like a little striped bumblebee bomb.
Yeah.
Then
it's not actual bumblebees.
You're not going to know what's on board. The driver is.
Yes.
If he gets pulled over by transport and main roads, by one of their traffic officers, by a police officer, or, you know, some other version of emergency services that has the right to ask that question, then they can just pull their DG folder out of the door of the cab and be like, this is what's on board.
Yeah.
And they have to have all of that done. There are circumstances where they may then go, okay, open the curtains and show me where it is. I want to make sure that it's all, you know, as it should be. There are certain circumstances where they can't do that.
Yeah.
Stuff like radioactive. It travels in specialized equipment. It's on, you know, specially monitored vehicles. There's Geiger counters and all sorts of stuff that they have. They have the special lined cases that it travels in, and the drivers have special equipment. And if a transport officer or a police officer pulls them over and gets handed paperwork saying, yeah, mate, it's radioactive, and the little diamond says radioactive and everything, and then they're like, okay, open it up and show it to me, the driver's going to be like, no, that's not happening. It's going to stay in its lead-lined 3 deep case. Where I'm not pulling that out for you, buddy.
You can, but I'm going to go.
I'm just going to drive away.
So when they're asked to show them, is that normally when you get pulled over, you know, in a truck designated inspection area?
Sometimes not.
Oh, okay.
I think that would be the most common.
Yeah, okay.
Is that if they get pulled into a weighbridge or an inspection site and they get asked to show their load manifests and that. Yeah. Once they show their load manifest, most drivers would, I assume, hand over the DG with the load manifest, because it's all sort of bound in anyway. You do all of that stuff to start with, and then they have a specialised one that has the DG as well. So they would be able to produce all of that just straight away. Yep, here it is. It's all tied down correctly. It's all segregated or marked up or whatever it needs to be correctly, and then they'll let them go. Okay. There are other times where there's a task force occurring, or a particularly snickety transport officer or a police officer who just sees a DG placard and goes, pull over. Right. I want to make sure you're doing it properly.
So it's random.
Yeah, you know, there is a random element to it. I think for the most part, it would be at an inspection station. Mm-hmm. But it's the same as driving to work. You see a cop and you're like, are you going to pull me over? So there is an element of randomness to it, but most of the time they would be pulled over in an inspection station, or if there's an active task force occurring. Yeah, and you basically know that you're going into that going, okay, they're going to want to check. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So there's all of that sort of stuff. There's levels to the code. So I will see if I can put up what we call a compatibility chart here, which gives us an idea of what can and can't travel together. Sometimes it is at all cannot be on the same truck. Other times it is must be segregated. Mm-hmm. So if you've got a B double, then you can put this on. You can put this classification of this goods on the A trailer, but this classification of goods can't be in the same trailer, so you put it on the B trailer towards the back or whatever. Mm-hmm. There's other stuff that you have special seg boxes designed for, that you put it into that box, and it's basically a steel framed crate with a door on the front, and you pack it in there, and then you close and lock the door, and that gets loaded onto the truck. Mm-hmm. So it's completely isolated from the rest of the load. Yeah. Doesn't matter what sort of truck it's on, it's still isolated. Yeah. There's certain things, I believe it's DG5 and DG6 and DG8. DG5 and 8 cannot travel together. Oh, that's right, yeah. But DG8 has 2 components, because DG8 is acidic, is acids. But there's 2 components to acids. There's alkaline and there's acidic. Mm. What happens when you put alkaline and acid together? Oh dear. it go boom. It go big boom.
Like crater boom.
Like crater boom.
Yeah.
And so they can't travel together.
Yeah.
They can't be stored together. They can't interact in any way together. And they've got to be segregated.
Yeah.
But they're all under DG8. So when you have customers that are like, oh, I've got all of this, and you go through it and you get the SDS off them, which is the safety data sheet, and you read through what they've got.
Yes. They
then go, but it's all DG8, what's your problem? Just come pick it up. And you're like, it's not all, yes, it's all DG8, but it's not all allowed to travel together. Please tell me you don't have them stored together in the house. It's in the warehouse. Like this is not going to be good for you.
Yeah, that's scary. Like, I get it. You know, it's all classified that, but like what you're saying, not everything can sit together, be on top of one another.
No, and the worst thing is that I can guarantee you there's at least a few people listening to this that have it in their own home and they're sitting next to each other in the cleaning supply closet.
Yes.
And they have no idea that if they mix, they can kill themselves.
Yeah.
They have absolutely no idea. It's like there's a particular chemical makeup and it's bleach and a couple of other things, and people accidentally mix them together and it essentially creates mustard gas. And they're cleaning their bathroom.
Oh my gosh.
But people aren't educated about it because
No.
I'm just buying cleaning products, so I'm just going to use my cleaning. I see those TikTok things where they're adding like 7 different cleaners to the toilet, and I'm like, stop! You're sending me into a complete meltdown.
Freaking me out.
It's like, I know that it's supposed to bubble and it's supposed to be pretty and pink and all the rest of it, but please stop. You are literally freaking me the fuck out.
It's like a big potion of just like volatile cocktail of stuff.
Very volatile cocktail.
And then close the lid of the toilet and let that simmer a little bit.
Yeah, and then open it and knock yourself out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Guys, really have a look at what you've got going on with your chemicals at home.
Yes.
Under the laundry cupboard or under the sink or wherever, and just have a little look.
Yeah, and the worst thing is when the bottle degrades a little bit and it starts with that tiny little trickle leak, and then you've got something else that's got the same thing, and
same with any pool supplies.
Oh my god.
I just thought I'd highlight that along with the cleaning stuff.
There was a guy I worked with a few years ago, and he went to clean his pool, and he thought he was doing the right thing, and he ended up literally burning his eyebrows off, like just in his face, and he had to go to hospital because he had burns on his face and his chest and his arms. Not good. I think anytime you're handling chemicals, no matter what it is you're doing, whether it is just your usual domestos cleaning bleach and you're scrubbing the shower, or you are cleaning the pool, or just, going to the grocery shops and buying cleaning chemicals.
Yeah.
Be very careful about how you're handling them.
Yes. And just take a little note. Like, you don't have to be, a scientist or some sort of chemical expert.
No. You don't need to be a chemist.
You don't need to do that. You don't need to start.
You don't need to be a chemist. Just have a quick look at the back and be like, oh yeah, okay, I need to be like, this one's going to screw with my lungs or my eyes, or I shouldn't mix this with this chemical, and just make sure that they're a little bit segregated.
Yes.
We have 2 drawers in our laundry, especially after all of my DG training. It was like, okay, 2 drawers. Separate those out.
Yes.
Make sure that your bleach and your vinegar isn't really mixing.
Yeah, don't do it, guys.
Don't do
it. But even, big companies can get it wrong. You can see things on shelves that are packed wrong, on top of one another.
It's always interesting going to Coles or Bunnings or whatever, because the person that's stacking the shelf has no idea.
No,
they're not trained in that. It's another cleaning thing to go in the cleaning aisle, and I'm just going to...
Yep.
That's where it is, and I'm walking through going... Oh, I hope those don't spill.
Yeah, no. Yes. Yeah.
But the risk in that case is way less than the risk in a truck carrying 42 tons of ammonium nitrate, because they're all in sealed containers. They're in their most stable form when they're in a shopping centre.
Of course.
It's not like you're going to take it, put it in the car, and the car go boom because you've bought Ajax spray and wipe. Yeah. It's not.
Don't go.
We're not saying
catastrophic. With this.
We're not saying that. We're just saying, when you start mixing chemicals, be cautious.
Yeah.
Be very cautious.
And it could be you just get knocked out from a ridiculous odor if it's mixed, because it's a small enough, form of what you've got going on. So you might get knocked out by that, or you might have something happen to your skin. There's things like that.
If you're planning on doing like those clean talk videos and you want to have a really cool video and you want to have mix the pink thing with the blue thing with the white thing and have the foamy toilet come up, you might want to be reading the label and just doing a quick Google check to make sure that you're not actually going to blow the toilet up.
Yeah.
That's all we're saying.
It might look pretty for like a
10
seconds and then not so pretty. Or you not look so pretty.
Or your insurance looking at you like, why did you choose to do that?
I would love to be a fly on the wall to hear that insurance phone call.
Can you imagine the phone call that the guy had to make to the hospital when he was like, I think I've just created mustard gas cleaning the bathroom.
Accidentally. Yes.
I didn't mean to.
No.
The cleaner is still in there. It's like all the cleaning stuff is still in there. We've evacuated the apartment. What do we do? What do we do?
What? Yes. Yeah. It'd be such a rarity, to, unless you're in a lab, and doing accidents.
And then you've got all your safety PPE and all the rest of it. So
eye wash and whatnot. But yes, just be careful with all that, because as much as, yes, they're diluted down a majority of the time and whatever, and they're in a bottle or some sort of version of a container that's sealed, at the end of the day, you will be using it. Will be opened and you pour it in or stir it up or whatever you're doing. So it's, such a low level, but at the same time it
can have catastrophic consequences if you are not being a little bit smart with it. So the good thing about the DG, and I'm talking about the Australian Dangerous Goods Codes, or the ADG, is that the Dangerous Goods Code is really an international code language.
Yeah. So
the diamonds, the pictures used, the classifications, so the DG1, DG2, DG8, 9, they are internationally recognized on the same codes. So you don't have to speak the language of the country it's coming from. So if you've ordered something from Brazil and everything's in Spanish, you're still going to recognize that symbol.
Yes.
And same in reverse. When we send something overseas, it's going to still have that recognizable symbol. Yep. So people are aware of what it is. The Australian Goods Code is the legal force binding the states and territories of our country to abide by that code and to ensure that supply chain duties, licenses, requirement, and competent authority panels are in place and being observed to ensure that it is as safe as it possibly can be.
Yeah.
Now, we understand that what's happened outside of Baroran is a vehicle accident. It was the two vehicles having an accident, and what's happened with the ammonium nitrate on the trailer is because of a vehicle accident, not because of the ammonium nitrate.
No.
If that accident had never taken place, it would have gotten safely to its destination, been unloaded and turned into whatever it was due to be turned into.
Yeah.
Be that fertilizer or explosives.
It could have been 2 utes. It could have been, just how it was.
That's what's happened. So you can always get a copy of the Australian Goods Code, and it is updated pretty much every year. We're currently at volume 1 and 2 of edition 7.9.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
So, and I think they only update the number when you get to, so it's now 7.9. So next year we should be 8.
Yes.
So there's like 10 years in each edition.
Yeah. You're going to keep going. 8.10. That's too much.
Yeah. So it's quite large. You can get the dangerous goods listings online. You can Google most of this information and get it for free. You can get printed copies, and when you do a dangerous goods course, because you do not have to go for a dangerous goods license to do the dangerous goods course.
No.
Dangerous goods course is just about educating yourself on the compatibility, the regulations, and all the rest of it. The dangerous goods license is what drivers have to do to be qualified to actually carry the goods. So the driver of that vehicle would have had to have gone through a special course to get his dangerous goods license, and then he would have had to have a refresher course, which is the DG goods course, where he would have been signed off and certified as aware of his responsibilities and duties and capable of carrying them out.
Yeah.
When you do that course, they'll often give you a printed copy of that book.
Oh, good reference.
As part of it. Well, it's not a cheap course. It's a couple of $100 each time.
Yeah.
But when they give you that book, it's good. Most of the drivers will swap their old book out for the new book that they get with the course, and they'll keep it handy. It gives them a lot of safety data information and all of the compatibilities and emergency requirements, what they need to do, because each chemical or compound that's being transported may have a different requirement.
Yeah.
One that normally confuses people is ground fish meal. Now, it's used in your animal foods when it's being processed in the factory to turn into your dry biscuits or your wet food cans and things like that.
Right.
And it's often used in fertilizer processes, or even some components of it are used in animal feedlots to go out to the cattle feedlots and things like that, depending on what it is. So what a lot of people don't know is that dried fish meal is self-combustible, just like hay.
Wow.
So hay and dried fish meal, under the right circumstances, starts to generate its own heat, which then catches fire.
Wow.
So that makes it a fire hazard.
Yeah.
So it's considered flammable.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be careful with it. But what
which
most
is
people,
surprising.
For a lot of people,
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand that. But what people don't understand is that water makes it hotter. So the SDS for that sort of item states, if there's a fire, do not use water.
Yeah. Which is such a go-to for
It
a lot
is.
of people.
It is.
So hard.
They just automatically go for that.
Yes.
There's a lot of fire extinguishers and that they have to be careful with using on certain things. Yeah. But in the case of where I was working that handled a lot of this sort of stuff, we had bags, 1 to 1.5 ton bulker bags of sodium bicarb stored off to the side. So if it caught fire, we dumped the sodium bicarb onto it, and that put the fire out because it smothered it. Same as if you're working in a kitchen and you have an oil fire, you don't put water on it, you smother the fire with either a pan lid or a fire blanket or a tea towel, something that will stop the oxygen getting to the oil, and then the flames go out. Yeah. So it's one of those things where everything about dangerous goods, because there is no way we can get away from it. They're in every corner of our lives, whether you want it to or not. Your fridge is a dangerous goods. People forget about that, but the way that your fridge cools, especially older model fridges, has dangerous goods in there. It has the antifreeze in there to stop it from all chocking up. So I don't think there's anywhere you can go these days where you're not coming into some form of contact with it. No. It's not something to be scared of. It's just something to be educated about. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what all of these DG things are. It's making sure that you're educated on what you're carrying. You're educated on what you need to do with it. There's dangerous goods bags that go with the drivers. Yeah. That has, depending on what they're carting, depends on what goes into the dangerous goods bag. So there's certain stuff, like if they're carrying quicklime, they have to have eye wash with them. Yep. It has to be there, and they get these little special, they're stupid, ridiculous little single eye use tubes, bright orange, so that they can't be missed inside the DG bag. And if they have an accident, they're already filled with liquid. They're already shaped at the top to fit onto your bone there, so that everything is nice and sealed. And they just crack the lids off, put that up to their eyes, and then they stand there and flush their eyes out with it, because it could cause, I think it's up to 3rd degree burns, depending on how long it's left on your eye. They can also start to sort of cut and rub into your eye and leave gouges in your cornea and that. So some of the stuff that is being carted around is really bad. But if you want a nice stable road base, quicklime is required, because they use it before they lay the bitumen. All the time. And it's, for the murder mystery novelists out there, it is not going to break your body down unless you have the right level of quicklime and water. It will actually mummify the body if you don't. How do I know that? Because the guy who was giving us the safety instruction told us.
That was my next question, children.
Yes, no, we had a very well educated guy come in, and he was very, very knowledgeable and told us all about it. And he was like, it's not, it is a misnomer. I've read it in plenty of murder mysteries. It is not going to deteriorate the body in the way that they think it will.
Yes.
It will mummify the body.
Thanks, film and TV.
Yes. It can be turned into an acid, but you have to get that level perfect.
Okay, so you need to be a scientist.
Yeah, in this case, you do need to be a chemist. If
Yeah.
you want to get rid of a body with quicklime, you will need to be a chemist.
Okay. So
Pigs are better. I was joking. That was for legal reasons. That was a joke.
Yeah, that's a joke. We don't want to harm anyone or anyone to harm anyone. Anyone.
Yeah. No harming. So there, it does appear that ammonium nitrate is very relied upon.
Yeah.
Globally, not just in Australia, but globally.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no way that we're going to be able to get away from using it. It's just too useful in both explosives and in gardening.
Yeah.
So it's constantly going to be changed. I do know that there was a lot of discussion and review of the local laws, both after the Charleville incident
Okay.
and after the Beirut explosion.
Uh-huh.
Now, the Beirut explosion, that was catastrophic, both because of how much was in storage and how long it was in storage.
Yes.
Beirut was, I think it was, almost 3 tons stored in a warehouse.
That's right. It was a huge amount.
Yep.
Yes, I remember the story now.
See, now it's not as much as what was on the truck.
No.
It was only 3 ton.
Yeah.
But the circumstances were very different.
Yes.
Because what was on the truck, despite being a larger amount, it was a lot more rural as opposed to being in the main port of the main city.
Yeah.
It was on an open top truck. So it was being carted, I believe, I will just see if I can confirm that. But I believe it was being carted in what I affectionately term as a mud carter. Basically, it's solid on the base.
Yeah.
And then it's got the sides, the front and the back would often drop down, but it would be sealable. Yeah. And then it has like a tarp over top. I believe that that's sort of what it was being carted in, which means that when it blew, it wasn't turning a silo into a projectile.
Yeah. Yeah.
It wasn't sending all those fragments completely everywhere. There would have been plenty of fallout, but it wouldn't have been quite the same as a compressed warehouse silo going boom, which would have been, rather nasty.
Which I guess, saying that this particular chemical's not going anywhere, some do. Some actually disappear because they realise they're a cancer-causing agent. So we have quite a list of those particular chemicals that were heavily used for many, many years in a lot of different industries. And then they've realised that there's, cancer-causing agents in there, or it's just one, bad for the environment, and they've gone, we can't do this anymore, we can't use this, and they've made it illegal. Some places still...
Like asbestos.
Yes. And, looking into things like Roundup, that was something that was used in Australia and New Zealand. I don't know about the rest of the world, Roundup.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, around the world?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's Monsanto. It's used everywhere.
True. Yes.
It's still available.
But, there was big investigation and everything into that. So things do get taken away. Some chemicals don't continue on, but this one, like Taja said, will be staying around because it's used so heavily in a lot of industry, big industry as well.
Oh, yes. And I mean, part of its usage is exactly what they want it to be used for, is its explosive properties.
Yes.
So it's not really going to go anywhere with that because
that's what it does.
That's what it does. That's what they want it
for. You
for.
can't change it and go, actually, we're going to use it for this now. It's literally what it's used for. Yeah.
Yeah. As far as I'm aware, the driver of the truck survived the incident, and they were still investigating so it was 5:15 in the morning that the Ute and the B-double collided. And I don't think they've ever actually released what the cause of the accident was.
Okay.
I've not been able to find it at any rate. They're all just focused on the ammonium nitrate, which I feel in this particular case is the wrong thing to be focused on, because the ammonium nitrate didn't cause the accident.
No, it didn't.
It was very much just a standard highway accident.
Yeah.
It just happened to have a DG compound, which is why the drivers carry those specialised items, because as it shows in the response, while they tried to revive the Ute driver and they got the truck driver away, they were able to ID fairly quickly that the truck was carrying something dangerous on board.
Yeah.
And they knew to put an exclusion zone in place.
Yeah.
They knew to handle whatever was leaking from this vehicle with care.
Yeah.
And so nobody else was injured except the two involved in the accident.
No.
Which, to me, shows that as much as people are saying, get it off the road, everything that could be done was done.
Yeah.
And a lot of life was preserved because of it. Can you imagine if they were just in there with shovels trying to clean it up? There would have been a lot of people that would have been very seriously injured and or dead because of it. The driver in the Charleville accident, he survived.
Yeah.
He was severely burnt, but he did survive. Yeah. So as much as I know people don't like, there was an accident in the States a couple of weeks ago where a fuel tanker driver had a medical episode behind the wheel.
Mm-hmm.
And his truck careened into the centre barrier of the highway and exploded. They're talking about doing a petition to get fuel tankers off the road.
Oh, right.
The driver had a medical episode. The fuel tanker was perfectly safe before that.
Yeah. Everything
Nobody
was
but the driver
checked,
was injured.
Done. Yeah.
Nobody but the driver was injured. In this case, yes, it was lucky that nobody else was injured because he hit the centre barrier of a highway. But everything before that point when he had the medical episode was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
There was nothing leaking. It was new equipment. There was no indication of issues with the trailers. But they're saying get the fuel tanker off the road because it's caused this accident. No. It didn't cause the accident. A fuel tanker causing an accident would be it leaking fuel, it being cracked or damaged, fumes coming out the back of it.
Yeah.
The driver having a medical episode caused the accident. The accident between the Ute and the truck, of which I don't know the cause, is what caused the explosion of the ammonium nitrate.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I ever found out what caused the explosion of the ammonium nitrate in Charleville 10 years ago. I'm not even sure if I'd be able to.
But that's the thing. Sometimes the investigation is misguided as well on what they're actually investigating. So the chemicals really aren't the problem. Nothing was wrong. All the checks had been done. They had the right information with them, placarding. Everything was done properly. And it just happens to be that got into an accident with a Ute.
Oh, there you go. The one in Charleville was because of a truck accident, the driver rolled. So it was injured. The driver rolled on the highway about 30 kilometres south of Charleville just before 10 p.m.
Yeah.
And he was carrying more than 50 tonnes of the chemical.
Okay. Yeah.
The two passers-by dragged the truck driver out of the vehicle and he was airlifted to Brisbane in serious condition. And the two firefighters that were wounded, saving him from the truck, they were considered walking wounded and were sent to Toowoomba Hospital. So they probably kept working after their injury until other rescue workers could get on site and take over at the time. So, it was pretty bad. I do know that it's still very much ingrained in the locals' memories, and this Baroran incident is going to be ingrained in the memories of the locals there as well.
Yes.
It's not good. Like, it is a psyche scar.
Yeah,
but to turn around and say, just get them off the road, I feel is a little bit counterintuitive, because how else are you going to get it? It's sort of, it's the same argument I hear when people are like, just get trucks off the road. It's counterintuitive, because you can't go to the shops and enjoy being able to pick up your groceries whenever you want and then tell truckies to get off the road.
No.
Australia needs trucks. We're too
Or it
big of a
stops.
country not to. Yeah. That is the saying, without trucks, Australia stops. And it is very true.
Yes. Well, if we cast our minds back to the pandemic even, you know, just getting stuff to where it needed to be relied heavily on the transport industry.
Yes, I do remember being classified as a essential worker.
Yeah, an essential industry to keep running. So, I mean, without that, I can't even begin to imagine what people would have been with the outrage of not having toilet paper.
Which was completely driven by the consumer, by the way. Yes. There was no shortage until everyone went out and bought it, which I still don't understand. How many of you were watching Supernatural and took Chuck seriously?
But no, that's the same. You know, without trucks, Australia stops. It's very true, and I don't think people take that.
We can't send a rail container to your local Woolworths.
No. Have you seen the lack of rail around?
It's a debate.
So, yeah. And air's not, like you said, is not necessarily feasible either, depending on what we're putting via air as well. So maybe it's just a reframe of thinking and a little bit about education again with some of this stuff to understand that not everything is what it seems to, and how things are portrayed.
Yeah, because the thing is that as far as I'm aware, there's been no communication regarding the cause of the accident between the ute and the truck. We don't know who was at fault. We don't know if there was a medical incident that's caused the accident. We don't know if someone was playing on their phone or not paying attention or falling into a micro sleep or whatever has happened. But at the end of the day, the DG component, while it has wreaked the most damage to property, it was not the cause of the incident.
No.
And it was not the cause of the driver's death in the ute.
No.
That was the incident of the accident between the truck and the ute.
Yes.
So it's the DG code is put in place for safe handling and safe emergency responses. Yeah. And as far as I can tell, in all of these incidences, it's worked. It's done its job.
So far, so good.
They've known that there's something there. They've then worked to those procedures. They were able to find out what was on board. It's why the drivers carry the SDSs, the safety data sheets, so that they know what the emergency response needs to be. Yeah. And safety data sheets, no matter what country you're in or what language it's in, follow the same routine formula, so
Absolutely.
that you know to go to this particular page and it will tell you what to do.
Section 9, blah, blah, blah. Section 1, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So he would have been carrying all of that. He would have been marked as carrying that. Yep. And I think in certain circumstances, there's extra steps that drivers will take as well. Yeah. So he may have had some of that as well, but
it's all how it's reported, you know, especially if you're just getting the news version as well, whereas maybe NHVR will have a different statement. I think
you know,
about things as well.
I have noticed, being that I follow a lot of industry news, I have noticed that there is a huge difference in the reporting between the industry news, where they're not going to straight up just go with, okay, get the truck off the road. No. I don't know how quite to phrase it, is that it's almost fear-mongering with a lot of the... And it's existed. It's existed for a long time, because you read a standard news report and it's always about how this truck has caused this accident, but then you look at the accident and the report comes out that the car was in the wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell you how many times I've had truck drivers I know are brake checked by cars, and insurance automatically give the fault to the driver in the truck.
Yeah.
The best thing that ever happened to trucks was dash cams,
mm-hmm.
because they are able to prove unequivocally they were not at fault.
Yes. Yeah, and then it feeds, if you're not getting the full story, or even half the story necessarily, it'll feed into outrage culture, which leads you to then go to this, you skip a lot of, objective thinking and get to the point where you're saying, just get it off the road, it being the truck, it being the chemical, it being whatever it is, rather than having all the facts too, because if it's mid-investigation or at the very start, so you hear about the story and this has just happened, and then you've made your own conclusion without hearing their final part of this investigation might not be closed for ages, depending on their findings and the report and everything like that. So we've heard the story, horrible that someone's lost their life, that's horrible, but the actual investigation still needs to take place, and what the findings will be will, I can guarantee you, be quite different to what most of the public think already.
Yeah.
So it's reframing your mind about some of the things that you hear and going, I actually don't have all the facts. I probably need to wait before I formulate a proper opinion about this.
Yeah.
And just pump the brakes.
Yep, just chill a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yes, but that's sort of all we have time for today. We've been chatting for over an hour. So,
good topic though.
Yeah, and I think maybe in a later episode, if you'll want to hear it, we might go a little bit more in depth as to dangerous goods and how it operates and what the actual code in Australia is.
Yeah.
But like I said, you can download the Australian Dangerous Goods Guide and the code from NHVR and from the Australian Dangerous Goods, I believe it is just the NTC, which is the National Transport Commission. They have it all available as well.
Yeah.
So it is all available.
For some light reading before sleep.
Yeah, for some, well, it'll put you to sleep if you're not interested.
You might get through page 1.
It might give you more of an idea on how to organise your cleaning cupboard.
Yeah, absolutely. Or your pool supplies.
Or your pool supplies. Or your shed, just your shed in general.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
But that is all we have time for today. So thank you for tuning in and listening to us ramble once more.
Yes.
And we will see you next time.
Goodbye. Bye.